posters also, I think, on our website, but they just scan that, make themselves an account, and it takes them right into the Move Free purchase and puts them in the program. There are 3 workshops throughout the week that they're invited to. Some are shorter. One is a little longer. You can see it on this poster. If you guys want to come to this workshop series, it's $45 for all 3. So you could look at not like each one, all 3. You could have a look at that. And that's the most important thing, I think, right now, that Move Free. It starts tomorrow. So it's a place for friends to come and give it a try. They get to come every single day if they want to, do the workshops. And in the background, we're sending them a whole program over email. So they just learn more, a little bit about like what we do in 40 days. It's tiny pieces of that kind of experience for them. Not like here's a tour of 40 days, but like here's one little piece of inquiry work you can do right now for yourself. So great place for friends to get started. All right, then let's start in child's pose. Sink your hips back toward your heels, and even right here, you get to feel already the starting of a little opening up for your hips. Maybe try shifting weight a little more into one knee and taking a breath and letting that hip have some extra pressure, and then into the other knee and doing a breath there and giving that hip extra pressure. And you might find one of your hips just wants a little more attention than the other one. And then before we get too far along, here in just your early, easy breaths, take a moment to acknowledge yourself for being here, getting yourself on your mat and prepared to take care of yourself and really set up to be the best person that you can be today. Take a breath and let go of anything else you might have about the experience and just let it be that you're creating for yourself, you as the best person you can be today. Then when you inhale, come up out of this pose into your tabletop position. Set your knees up wide and hip width distance. Maybe walk your hands a little bit more forward. I like to turn my toes under here so I have a little bit of support. So breathe in, sink your heels, and look up. Breathe out, sit your hips back. Work on the pattern of this. Don't worry about a big upward facing dog. You're just starting to kind of oil the joints of the Tin Man that are your hips. So we're really looking for some just back and forth in your pelvis, not a lot of back bend or front belly stretch. Back and forth a few times. Finish one more just back and forth here. And then walk your hands together and come into downward facing dog and stretch back. Now you can do the usual bending and straightening of your knees to stretch out your toes, the arches of your feet. Then lift your right leg into the air behind you, bend your knee and open your hip here. Give it just a bit of a stretch. Then step your right foot outside of your right hand. So right in front, outside of your right hand, and just give it a gentle kneel. You can lean forward, hands on the floor. No need to ask for a lot from your hips just yet. Take a breath and stretch back. Then lift your left leg up into the air behind you. Bend your knee, heel to your hip, stretch open, and step your left foot outside of your left hand and bring your back knee to the ground. Stay in your deep forward-leaning lunge and breathe. Step up and back. Right leg, if you want to take it in the air, bend your knee and open up your hip, you can do that. Step your foot outside of your right hand. Lunge and lean forward. You can still keep it pretty gentle by staying on your hands. Turn your right toes out, peel your arch off the floor, and let your knee drop out. You can turn a little bit more toward this right leg, maybe hand on your thigh near your hip. Just turn and open up. Keep your belly pulling in and strong. So instead of sitting back in the thing, you want to sit forward so that you're really bringing weight into the front hip. Another breath, then hands to the floor, downward facing dog. Left leg into the air behind you. Bend your knee, turn your hips open. Take a breath here and really let the weight of your foot hang and then step it forward. Back knee down to the mat. Weight forward in your hands and in your front foot, then turn your left toes out. Like if they were hand on the clock, you're turning out now to like 11 or 10 o'clock with your toes. The extra hand, your left hand, rather than on your knee, put it on your thigh so you can add pressure and there won't be added pressure to your knee joint. Hands on the floor, downward facing dog with wide set hands, stretch up and back. Now lift your right leg in the air, bend your knee, open your hip. A little shuffle here, bring your right knee under your body, across your body, reach your leg out to the side and sit your hips down on the ground. Lift your waist up, your chest up. There'll be a lot of pressure in this hand so that you don't collapse here on this right side body line. Breathe here. Then back toes turned under, reach this leg up and back. Put your foot on the floor. Left leg into the air, bend your knee, open your hip, and then swing your left knee under your body, through, foot on the floor. You can sit on the hip. So you want your leg to be parallel to the short ends of your mat, if you can. Different than maybe at an angle. You might feel it a little more in your hip. You feeling that in your hips, Lindsay and Kelly? Yeah, okay. Jenna. Back to the downward facing dog then. Look to the front of your mat and step to the front of your mat. Feet open wide and hip width distance. And do a bit of swaying from side to side. Even linger on one foot and let there be extra weight in one hip for a couple of breaths. And then to the other hip. So you just swing to the side and let the weight just be extra in one hip. Back to the center. Press your feet into the ground. Roll up to standing. Sweep your arms overhead. Reach up. Look up. Good morning, Minnie. And hands into prayer position. Set your gaze and set the intention for your practice. This creating of an intention, your practice is going to happen. But when you bring an intention to it, you narrow the field of results and focus them. So focus your results by choosing your intention. Then 3 times we can chant together. Take a deep breath in. Inhale, reach up. Fold to the floor as you exhale. Inhale, lift halfway, high plank to low plank, and empty your breath. Then inhale, stretch the front of your body, upward facing dog. Exhale, move back, downward facing dog. Now 3 breaths. Inhale and exhale. 2 more. Breathe in. Breathe out. Last time. Inhale. Exhale, bend your knees, look forward, move up to your hands. Lift up halfway and forward fold. Press the floor, stand up, lift up, reach up, fold to the floor as you exhale. Halfway lift, low plank. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Work together. Inhale, exhale. 2 more. Inhale, breathe out. Last one. Breath in, breath out, bend your knees, jump up to your hands. Halfway lift, forward fold, feet under the ground, stand up, lift up, reach, fold to the floor and empty. Halfway lift, low plank. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. 3 breaths here. And out. 2 more. And out. Last one. Bend your knees, look forward, jump to your hands. Halfway lift, forward fold, chair pose, sit back, reach your arms, fold to the floor. Halfway lift, low plank. Upward facing dog, Downward facing dog, right foot forward for warrior one, lunge, lift up, hands back down to the ground for low push-up. Upward facing dog to downward facing dog. Left foot steps, lunge. Inhale, lift and reach. Hands to the floor for chaturanga. Upward facing dog to downward facing dog. Sometimes we don't realize it, but these lunges are the beginning hip openers in the class. So what you can do to get more out of them for yourself is to press all four corners of your feet down and then lunge deep. Now, when I think I'm lunging deep, it's deep-ish. But when I really lunge deep, I also feel it in my back hip. Try this on the next round, the lunging deep enough until you feel it in your back leg. Take a breath in. Exhale, bend your knees, jump to your hands. Halfway lift, forward fold, chair pose, reach your hips back and sit, then fold to the floor. Halfway lift, low plank, empty your breath. Upward facing dog, a stretch in the front of the hips, downward facing dog. Now right foot forward and lunge. Anchor your back foot, bend your knee until you feel your back hip, and then you reach up out of your hips. Hands to the floor for chaturanga. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Left side next. Step forward and lunge. Anchor your foot, go down low and lift up. Hands to the floor for chaturanga. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Now pedal out your feet and step them back toward the back of your mat a little bit further, and with soft knees, just drag your hips back out of your hands. Take another breath in. Exhale, bend your knees, look forward and jump to the front of your mat. Halfway lift, forward fold. Last round, chair pose, sit and reach your arms up, then fold to the floor. Halfway lift, chaturanga. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog, right foot forward and lunge. Warrior one, go as low as you can and anchor into the back leg. Hands down, chaturanga. All of you, that was great. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Left side now, deep, deep lunge. Way down low, reach up. Hands to the floor, chaturanga. Up dog to downward facing dog. Now, here in your downward facing dog, raise your right leg up into the air, bend your knee and flip the pose over. Keep your breath just flowing steady. 2 feet on the ground, whether it's the cactus arm or the stretching arm. Breathe and open your whole right side body and across your chest. Then when you come down and around, flip over to your 3-leg dog with a bent leg. Shake your right leg through your body. No hip on the ground this time. So you've got your leg through as we've tried it earlier. Chaturanga here. Upward facing dog here. Downward facing dog. Just keep your foot out. Open up to your side plank. I know it's a little tricky, right? Good. In your side plank here, foot in front of you, the bottom foot in front of you. See about this if you can. Press your hand and your left foot into the mat. Suck your right leg back a little bit and then lift it if you can 3 times. Just tap your toe. 1, 2, 3. Suck your leg back and through and go to chaturanga. You can try it with the leg. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. It's a little weird, I know. Lift your left leg into the air behind you, bend your knee, and turn and flip the pose open. Steady breathing the whole way through. When we add in different moves or different poses, it's not just to keep us entertained, it's to understand our body and the principles we're putting into the poses in a little different way. Principles are our methodology, for example, breath or drishti, or sometimes the way we're setting things up physically, or an attitude that we're creating. Flip through, swing your left leg through, create the straight and perpendicular to your mat. Yep, 2 hands on the ground, so you have your left leg through. Look forward, take the chaturanga, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Reach open to the side plank. Leg to the side and suck it back into your body a little bit. Then 3 taps. Lift your foot in the air and tap it 1, It's the bottom foot, 2, 3, lift it up, take it through to chaturanga. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. So working on our hips is not only stretching and opening them, but for a lot of us, creating strength in our hips. I just was flipping through my Apple News feed. I was waiting for you to all come in this morning, and I saw an article for exercises for people over 60. Not that that's any of you, right? But one of the things they were emphasizing was strength in the hips. And you can see that that would be necessary to maintain your balance as you grow older. Now take your right foot forward for crescent lunge. So just step forward, arms overhead. Set your gaze, get a steady gaze. You want a deep lunge in this so that what happens in your back leg when all 5 toes are on the ground is right down through the front of your hip. You feel a lot of lift and stretch. Getting the ability to stretch your quads so they're not pulling the front of your pelvis forward lets you stand up in a neutral position. This pose is giving you access to that. Stretch up and go back. Then bring your hands to prayer position and twist. Elbow to your knee. Turn. Last week, we were working a little bit more on shoulders. Even here in this pose, you can move your shoulders up to your ears and to the back of your body, but particularly the bottom one. You'll feel your elbow, that's it, Ryan, drive into your knee a little bit more, your left elbow. Keep that action, and you'll feel more stretch in your back left ribs here. 2 more breaths. See if you can feel more stretch in your back left rib area. Last breath, complete it, then reach up to the crescent lunge, open to warrior 2. Set your feet long, front foot, rather than turning your foot beyond your knee. That's a pretty common default. Keep your toes and knee pointing in the same direction. As many of us overturn the ankle there. Stretch your arms apart and lift up the front of your pelvis, then tilt for extended side angle. This is another pose that you want to go low in until you feel the back leg as well. It's easy to feel the front leg, but feel the back leg and let your whole back left hip open. For me, a lot of times I have to take my top arm behind my back and just kind of rest the knuckles of my left hand into the top of my left hip and keep just driving the back of my pelvis down toward my heel, lifting the pit of my belly up so I get some opening in the back of my hip there. Feel how it is for you and finish this breath. Then hands to the floor for the low push-up. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Left foot forward for crescent lunge. Nice steady breathing and arms overhead. This pose can be underrated for what it does do to prepare your whole body for wheel pose and poses like that to come. Anchor into your back foot and fire up your back leg. So you want all of the attention in the back leg right now. Lunge as deeply as you can until you feel the stretch up the front of your right side pelvis, and then go up higher and go back. Every time you reach higher, you'll lunge deeper and go back. 1 more, pit of the belly up to your chin, go back, then hands to prayer position. Get ready to twist, right elbow to the left knee. Remember the bottom shoulder is the underrated shoulder. So shoulders up and back. You'll feel more drag into your thigh with your right elbow. Whole body long and lean from your heel reaching back to your neck and head reaching forward. Keep driving your elbow into your thigh and stretching your back right rib cage. 2 more breaths. Last breath. Really twist on your exhale, then come up to the crescent lunge and open to warrior 2. Long stance. Organize your front foot. You'll see that now all the time, that most often your toes are turned wider than your ankle. Back foot, angle it in so you feel more and more of the back hip and lunge. Tilt for extended side angle. Stay low in your lunge. If you want to take the top arm and rest your knuckles on your right back pelvis, you can do that. And when you're resting it on your right back pelvis, you'll drag your knuckles into your hip and turn your pelvis, the back of it, down toward your heel. Do you feel that a little bit, Kelly? Yeah, and you feel all that stretch in your lower back? 3 more breaths here. More belly from everybody. There's always a need for more belly to support the pose. Finish the last breath. That's it, April. And then hands to the floor for chaturanga. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Breath by breath, pose by pose. You stay very present to the physical experience that you're having. You'll have this impact of both healing your body and healing your mind as it gets freed from all the distractions and it learns to just be focused and present. Now take a breath in. Exhale, bend your knees, look forward, and jump up to your hands. Half lift, forward fold, chair twist. Sit back, hands to prayer, and twist. Elbow to your knee. You can take any arm variation here, but hips reaching back. See if you can create for yourself a little more reach back of your left hip. More left hip, so you'll bend your right knee more. Take a look at your knees right now. So 2 knees in line with each other. This one back, this one forward. Isn't that weird? Now stretch your left body. Left knee back, right knee forward. Such a weird feeling. One more breath. Feel how it's like longer. Twist, then reach up to the chair. Forward fold. Hook your big toes and stretch down. Keep your breath flowing. And through your breath, create a restful quality, an easing or a regenerative, restoring quality in this pose. Now, in doing that, you might have to do a bit of a body scan. Shake out your head and your shoulders and let gravity and the weight of your head give you more length in your neck and shoulders and back. And see if there's an ability to breathe into your bottom rib cage area. Then keep hold of your right foot's big toe. Put your left fingertips on the block or floor under your left shoulder and lift your right leg up into the air. Yeah, I know. Kelly's like, what? That's what I thought the first time somebody asked me to do this. I couldn't even pick my foot up at all. So much strength gets built here on the sides of your hips. This is something that helps to hold your body upright. Lift it a little higher if you can. And put your foot on the floor and shake your hips out. Now you know we need to do the other side. So if you're using a block, switch it. Block under your right fingertips. Hold onto your left big toe. And if you can, lift your leg up or at least shift your weight. Now with your right leg or your left leg lifting into the air, you notice how your big toes are in one line to the side because you're holding on. Your foot, your lifted foot is not drifting behind you. That'll be important in the future. Another breath, foot on the floor and shake your hips out. That's one of those things that gets better with time as you do it. Chair pose, twist the other way. Get to sit back into your hips and it just kind of puts some ease in all of the work you just did. Hands to prayer, twist toward the left. Now work with your knees, both knees evenly bending. That can be pretty tricky. Bring your left knee more forward and your right knee more back. That's it. That's it. You got it too, Lindsay. Good. Left knee more forward if you can, Ryan. Right knee more back. It'll have the impact of lengthening you more. 3 more breaths. If you want to take an arm variation, you can. Sit deep. Get deep into your heels and deep into your hips. Finish the last breath. Forward fold and hang. You can shake your hips out if you'd like. Stand on your palms for gorilla pose. Shake your head out. Let your head draw down long. The default way we use our pelvis, our hip area, is the front of it really wide and the back of it closing and narrowing. With our practice, we're creating the opposite and hoping to stabilize it. And right now you're helping create the widening of the back of the pelvis, the more collected quality in the front. Release your toes and put your 10 fingertips on the ground. Now keep your big toes in one line. In other words, don't take one foot behind. Lift your right foot out to the side. It's a little different challenge now that you're not holding on. It wants to drift behind you, but keep your toes in your peripheral vision. See if you can lift your foot up a little bit higher. Okay, if you need to bend your knee. Breathe. Stay with it as it gets hard. Take 3 more breaths. See if you can be at ease with the challenge. One more breath. All right, shake it out. Do whatever you need to. Kick out the foot. Ready for the other side? Left side. Sometimes people will say to me, why can't we just switch up the poses and make it like more fun? Well, a lot of times, if you look around the room from my perspective, the baseline skills aren't there. You'll just get hurt. And as you develop the baseline skills, you'll naturally just like lift a foot up and stretch over there. One of the most incredible teachers I ever met was this older man who's no longer really in the teaching realm. He always looked like the high school gym teacher. I know your foot's in the air. And he would teach these rooms full of little old ladies, like 500 of them, and they'd be doing these most incredible poses because so masterfully, thing by thing, he gave them the skills. Put your foot on the floor and shake your hips out. Now, I know you're craving a goddess squat. Toe heel your feet wide, sink your hips down, elbows in between. From your pelvis through your inner thighs, you have incredible core strength. Hug your knees into your arms and press your arms into your knees in this goddess squat. While you're doing that, just be lifting in the front of your body and see if you can feel like your lower back, like butter on a hot pan, melting open. While you're here, you might just shift a little more weight in your right foot and linger there for a breath or two. Feel how it's new and different in your right hip. And then put the weight into your left hip and linger there for a breath or two and feel that hip get extra opening. And final full relief, forward fold. Shake your hips out. Maybe you walk them side to side or sway them in a figure 8. And just like Debbie always says, wash it out. She says that, doesn't she? Come rolling up to standing and sweep your arms overhead. Right side eagle pose. Wrap your right arm under. Squat down, wrap your right leg over. Keep your breath steady. Now, as you sit down deep, let the back of your hips open. See how it is if you squeeze your legs more together in this twist and sit a little deeper. Have a good day at work, Mike. Deep, deep seat, then step out and switch sides. Left arm under, left leg over. Squeeze and sit. And lift up out of it. Can you pull the lowest pit of your belly now in, stabilize the front of your pelvis, and then drag up through your sides? All right, step out. Hug your right knee into your chest. Hold onto your foot and extend your legs, standing leg raises. You'll feel this whole back side of your leg stretching. It connects to your sitting bone on the right side of your pelvis. Just let your body get at ease here, however that could happen. Then switch hands on your foot. Reach to the back of the room. When we did the side leg lifts, the muscles doing that work are getting to stretch here. Come forward, hug your knee into your chest and stand as tall as you can. Just pull your thigh bone back so the crease of your hip gets deep. You're standing tall. Then hands to your hips. Maybe push your elbows behind you. It'll help you stand tall. Breathe in. Keep this right hip pushing back. Press your heel forward. You can even put your palm on your hand. Bend your knee, inhale. Press your hip back into your hand and heel forward. Few times, bend and straighten. Bend and straighten. One more time, stand tall, bend and straighten. Now hug your knee into your chest. Take the airplane pose. Reach back, let your hip open up. You'll notice the practice is built that you do some strength on a body part and you stretch it. Same thing happening right here. Keep your leg in the air, bring your hands to prayer position, and then bring your hands to the ground. Handstand, hands on the ground, tippy toe, and just lean into your fingertips and lift your right leg as high as you can. You can stay right here, practicing, pressing your hands into the ground, squeezing your shoulders to your ears, weight in your fingertips, or you can take 3 handstand hops. Up to you to lean or handstand hops. That's it, Lindsay. Now, when you hop, bring the hopping leg, the action leg, right knee into your chest, or the knee right into your chest. Take your last hop. Last hop, keep the leg in the air, foot on the floor. Right fingertips on the block or floor, and then just stretch long. Foot back, chest forward, just stretch long. You can have hands on the block or not. Then reach your left arm to the side. So right arm on the ground, left leg on the ground, left arm to the side, and turn toward the left. Reverse half moon. With the reverse half moon, you're standing on your hip for a long time. Stretch, open, there, and twist. Feel the difference? You got it. Whole body long. One more breath. From here, after you exhale, just step back to your crescent lunge, reach up, stretch up, then hands to the floor for chaturanga. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Take one breath in and a breath out. Look forward and jump up to your hands. Halfway lift, forward fold. Come all the way up to standing. Hug your left knee into your chest. Left knee into your chest. Then hands behind. Put them on the back of your hips like they're in back pockets. And press both hips into your palms. So it's hips into your palms. Now, as you move your leg, you want to keep pressing, especially the left hip, into your palm. Breathe in. Exhale, press your heel forward, hip into your palm. Breathe in, bend your knee. Exhale, press. Hip stays into your palm. Bend your knee. Stay standing tall. Heel out. One more time, bend your knee. Heel out. That's it. Bend your knee. Hug it into your chest. Good. Airplane pose. Bring your hands to the floor. Lead into your palms. Tippy toe on your standing foot. You want to really tippy toe on your standing foot. Then you can bend your knee and take 3 handstand hops on this side. The leg in the air, if it stays bent or straight, but very purposeful, and it's driving, like it's what's hanging from the ceiling, holding you in the inversion, you'll find that you get more air time. The bottom knee just into your chest. Finish your third one and set up your reverse half moon. Fingertips on the ground. Now iron out your body long and lean. Your hips still working, but getting some relief, just not a lot. Twist toward the right. So it's right foot on the ground, left foot in the air. Left arm on the ground, right arm in the air. You can just imagine that there's some pressure in the arch of your lifted foot, and all the way up into your armpit, you stretch long through your right body and open. That's it. Whole body long. One more breath here. Tilt back to the crescent lunge. Reach up. Hands to the floor for chaturanga. Upward facing dog to downward facing dog. 3 breaths. Downward dog. 2 more. You've got 1 more. Inhale. Exhale, bend your knees, look forward, jump to the front of your mat. Half lift, forward fold, chair pose. Sit, reach your arms up, fold to the floor. Halfway lift, drop to the chaturanga. Upward facing dog to downward facing dog, right side triangle. Step your foot forward. Back foot flat, then 2 long legs. You want to make the crease of your front hip very deep here so that what you get in effect is the bottom side of the triangle, that side of your body is long. Then when you pull the pit of your belly in, your pelvis moves into a neutral position in relationship to your spine. Feel that happening in your body? You might need a micro bend in your front knee to access it. One more breath here. Then come on up to standing. Face the long left side of your mat, hands to your hips and lift your chest up high and forward fold all the way down. Now, once you get folded all the way down here, you can walk your hands through your feet as far back as they'll go. and stretch your head down to the ground. As far as they'll go, maybe in time your head even touches the floor. If you have a block handy nearby and you just want that anchoring sense of your head touching, you could always reach your head for the block if it's not quite touching the floor. And of course, your head doesn't have to touch. Bring your hands back to center space. Turn your toes out. Walk your hands over to your left foot and bend your left knee. Pivot on your right heel, toes in the air. Stretch your whole inner thigh line all the way up into your pelvis. Keep your hips low and switch sides, as low as you can keep them. Switch to the other side. Sit down in the other side and breathe. And then switch back and forth. It's a teacher training weekend for the spring group. They're at their midterms today. So you'll hear them starting to come into the back room. Keep going back and forth. Stay low in your hips. And now you know the next stage of this, if you do this a lot and you're like, what's next? Is to switch without touching hands. Never touch your hands. Some days my hips are open enough and want to try that on, and other days not. Now, one of the secrets I find is to reach my hands. So it's reaching to the side and reaching to the side. It just gives me the counterbalance. See, you find it. Really sit deep and stretch. You'll sit your hips all the way down to your heel. That's it, Jill. And stretch and sink right through the center. Just let it be settling. And finish up whichever side you're on and come to the forward fold. And then all the way up to standing. Turn to face the front of your mat. Once you're facing the front of your mat, your left leg is forward. Bring your right knee down to the mat. Hanumanasana is one of the ultimate hip openers. Toes up in the air, hands on blocks or on the floor, back knee to the mat. Now you can slide your heel forward, but try not to let your hips open up so you end up sitting to the side. Feel like your whole knee in the back on the ground. Then a block under your left hip could be a nice tool for a lot of people. If you get to the block and feel like I don't need so much to hold on to the blocks or the floor, I'm settled on my hip, you could with your right hand reach back. Well, let's just say we've got some different sides going. For the back leg, with the hand on that side, you can reach back and catch that ankle. And then just keep squaring yourself to the front. I know that's a big challenge. No takers on that one today. You don't understand that these get so tight, and then they pull your pelvis forward, and you kind of get that roundy back belly forward. So stretching your quads and then your hip flexors, you're getting a lot of that in this pose. The addition is to reach back and hold the back leg. Sometimes you're ready for it, sometimes not. That's it, April. A little bit of support might give you better access to trying that on. You do need to be in the pose to a certain degree for the reaching back. Okay, another breath. See about a forward fold in the pose. See if you can even walk your hands a little forward. Sometimes we don't have enough time to be in certain poses, and what could be a real treat is to have extra time just in one or two poses. This would be one of the ones that's nice to have some extra time in. Take one more breath, a full and complete breath. Then hands to the floor, downward facing dog. And when you get in the downward facing dog, bend and straighten your knees and feel how it is in your body. Then we'll take the left foot forward for triangle pose. Left foot forward. Hand to the block behind. So we're doing both stretching and strengthening of the hips, which includes getting down into the legs and up into the torso at times. But a big piece of it all is then how much are we able to keep our pelvis neutral? I'm definitely one of those people that defaults into it just kind of hanging forward. So in this pose, the front of your pelvis, hug that musculature into your pelvis. And then draw up toward your chin. You want to add your right knuckles on the back of your right side pelvis to just guide that right side toward your heel. Yep. And you'll be able to conversely pull the front of your hip up. There. How's that feel, Lindsay? Can you feel it in your lower back? Yeah. Keep on breathing. You got it there, Jenna. A little bit for Ryan. Right there. Feel your lower back more? Yeah, so it's always a little more to be had. Come on up to standing. Face the long right side of your mat. Hands behind you. Lift your chest up high and forward fold. You can spill your hands overhead. While you lower here, maybe you started to notice how the back of the pelvis gets a lot more width to it in this body position. Again, teaching the front to collect a little bit more. Think about it this way. When we do take on that anterior tilt, it's the quality of the front of the pelvis, the pelvic bowl spilling, or both stretching and stabilizing. Now stay folded, bring your hands to your lower back and release that bind and bring your hands to the floor. Instead of turning your toes outward, keep them very parallel to the short sides of your mat. Then walk your hands over to your left foot and keep your right foot anchored to the ground. It's a whole different well, it's very different and very the same, right? And then walk to the other side, feet anchored this time, not turning out. Go back and forth. There are a lot of things you can notice in every pose, and in this pose, maybe you do notice a slight difference in the inner thigh line and hips as you're stretching, but maybe you also notice how much your feet are related to the results you're creating in your center. I get to noticing how tight I can be in my outside ankles. Start to balance out and get complete with the sides that you're on. And then as you're ready, come up to standing and turn and face the front of your mat. Forward fold and back knee to the ground. So we'll take the splits on this side. I usually take my front foot off of my mat. I know, it's like which side is different than what you guys were all on different legs the last time. So put your front heel off of your mat onto a towel so it has some cushioning and it has the ability to slide. Not just to let it slide and push away from you, but to actually keep stabilizing it by drawing it back into you a bit. See if you can open up the split enough to sit your left hip or the leg, your front leg's hip onto a block. Not by sitting to the side, but by supporting it right up in the front and center of the pose. You need a more stable block, don't you, Lindsay? Let me give you like one of these thicker, more sturdy ones for this. Some blocks are good for some things, some for other things, but a sturdy block for this. I think you might be good at that setting. You doing okay there, Kelly? I know. We can always stack a couple up. Here are a few to play with. Sometimes it is nice, when we get to sit in something a little longer to have a little more stability. Where's that skinny one Lindsay has? Here. I don't want to reach too much. There. Under your hand. Don't be afraid to have a few blocks around or straps. They're here for a reason. Some styles of yoga have tons of props. Now, they don't take on as many poses like our deep rest or our restorative class. It gives you a chance to be in a thing a little bit longer. Now, if you don't feel that it's critical that you have your hands supporting, you can bring them to your hips the way that April's doing. If you feel okay about hands off of the floor and on your hips, then with your left hand or your back leg hand, reach back for your back ankle. Jenna, your face is like, I made it. Sometimes the self-assist I'll give myself is if I can let my hands go off the floor, I'll take a palm and just press this thigh down a little more. I like the work of keeping your toes pointing up. Sometimes you have to pick the work, right? You know that there are 10 things you can do in a pose, but you pick one and focus and do that repeatedly, consistently, and then results do occur. Feel like you've got it here? Ready for the downward facing dog? I bet. Bring yourself out of it. Stretch back, downward facing dog. You can walk your legs out back and forth, back and forth. And then come through, sit down and roll onto your back. We've addressed quads so we don't need camel and front of the pelvis in a few different ways. Let's see how it applies to how your back bend feels now. So onto your back for bridge pose. There isn't like this is always the right way to be warmed up for the next pose. We put emphasis on certain body parts in certain poses. And now let's see how it affects this pose. First, the bridge. Bring yourself up into the bridge. Put some pressure in your big toes and see if you can tap back into the widening of the back of the pelvis we've been creating. Or subtle, see if you can feel a quality of collecting in the front of your pelvis. To find that, it may be helpful for you to bend your elbows and put your palms on the outside of not really your glutes, but more on the outside of the bony part of your pelvis here on the side of the body. So that would be, got your buns back there, and you've got the sides of your pelvis right about here. Put some pressure there, just hug in and help the collecting of the front of your pelvis, widening of the back of your pelvis. Okay, come on down, knees side to side. So we have what we have. Whatever it is exactly what we need. Get set up, and we'll take wheel pose. So come into the bridge first. You've done all the work to be prepared for this pose, just done it in a different way today. Open your feet wide, take them wider than you usually do, and let your knees not drop in, but come into your big toes more. And then set your hands up and get ready for the wheel. You might just be working here, weighting your big toes with your wide set feet, or pressing up into the wheel pose. Find where it is for you. Get on up there, keep the feet we've given you, and now see if you can get this quality of the front of your pelvis closing, the back of your pelvis opening. To get more of it, you may swing your heels a little wider. Tuck your chin and come on down. Knees side to side. And just feel how it is in your body. We'll do 2 more. Set up the next one. Start in your bridge and prepare by setting up your feet, setting them wide, a lot of pressure in the big toes. Press down, rise up. And if you can imagine the self-assist you just did where your hands were on the sides of the front bones of your pelvis and hugging in, there you go. Tuck your chin and come on down. Knees side to side. How'd that feel, Jenna? Just getting that extra pressure. We've got 1 more round here, bridge or wheel. You can keep emphasizing if you'd like, big toes down and heels swung wide. Extra pressure in the side of the bones of the top of front of your pelvis, so like the side of your ASIS, if you know where that is. In your big toes, and really get anchored in your legs. Yes, I'm seeing some incredible change in some of your lower bodies in this wheel. Tuck your chin then and come on down. How'd that feel? Anything new? Jenna, that looked different in your body. Did you feel any different there? Yeah. Supta Baddha Konasana. That was really good. It's also the nice things. Our teachers getting to know your bodies over the days and weeks and years of your practice. We can start to really make some changes. Changes not for something different, but changes for improved health. Hug your knees into your chest. Now put your feet on the floor for a moment like you do for bridge pose and lift your hips up in the air and then move your cheeks all the way down to your heels so you have every single bone of your back on the floor. There's no arcing in the lower back. Then bring your knees up to a tabletop and activate your feet. Now, if you have your block, you can hug your block between your forearms or your hands because it gives you center line of tension. But when you get here, don't drop your pelvis so that your back arches again. We're going to keep the pit of the belly on the floor the whole time. Then curl up and just keep hugging the block. Now breath in, blow out, and sink your belly to the ground. Stay right here and just hold this. Or hugging your block, you can tap your heels. Now opening your hips enough to tap your heels might be too much. You might just go down an inch or two and come back up. The whole time, keep the arch out of your lower back. Do that 10 times. No arch when you open and tap your heels. No arch in your low back. Deep sinking belly, stable hips. You're just exploring. Don't think that I'm doing an ab workout right now. You're exploring stability. Your deepest transverse abdominis muscle stabilizing you. Finish up your last couple and hug your knees into your chest. We're going to use the block again. Legs straight up in the air. If you have 2 blocks, you can use 2. One can be hugging between Your shins are the arches of your feet, the other one in your hands. So you're hugging the block with your hands, providing yourself stability. Now curl up. So from the side, your body has this quality of being U-shaped. All of your back on the floor. Breathe in, hug both blocks, lower your legs 30%. Now really concentrate on your arms hugging. Breathe in, see if there's a little more. Stop if your back arches. Breathe in, see if there's even a little more. Really hug with the arches of your feet, not your heels. Take a breath, blow out, legs back up. Try it again. We're doing 2 more. Breathe in, see if you can lower your legs a little bit. Breathe in, lower your legs a little bit more. No arcing in your backs. Breathe in, squeeze the block. It'll help with the core stability. Another breath, legs back up. We're going to do 1 more of those. You can do this with bent knees if you find I just don't have any access to keeping my lower back on the ground. Try it again. Here you go. Go low. Keep this one for your hands because it's heavy. Hug this one. Lower back still on the ground. Yep. Heels toward the floor. Hug with your arches. Less heels. Hug right here. Hug. Hug. Breathe in. Blow out. Legs up. There you go. Hug your knees into your chest and rock head to tail through to downward facing dog. Right side pigeon pose. Are you guys starting to get that about the stability section? Not just like the pumping abs. We've done that since like gym class, presidential fitness challenge, all that stuff. You remember that? Everybody do 50 push-ups in a short time or sit-ups. We're looking for stability rather than like the more surface muscles doing their bulging. You've done a lot of good work today. Can you feel how on your right back pelvis, this pose is giving you the final stages of opening? It's got the collecting quality on your right front pelvis. Just stabilized in neutral on your left front and back pelvis. You can switch sides. Left leg forward. Years ago when I started gymnastics, yoga, it's like 20 some years ago, I liked it because it felt like gymnastics did growing up in my adult body, appropriate for my adult body. And I liked doing all the tricks of yoga then. And I still think those are enjoyable, but there's a little more at stake each year. Now I'm really interested in health and well-being physically and mentally. And so I like a practice that lets me mark in time. How is it today? What am I working with today? What do I have access to that I've never had access to before? And out of that comes bigger poses, let's say. I no longer have the goal of like, I want to be doing so much the tricks. I now know I want a really able body and mind. Stay seated here on your left hip. Swing your right leg around and roll onto your back. We've got last few moments of hips above the heart. So it might be waterfall. Waterfall on the block is really nice. I love always going into the full plow pose, but waterfall on the block is really nice. So the block long, so each side of your pelvis has got support. A little taller with the block, fine too. Then when your ankles are over your hips, whether your knees need to be bent or not, that doesn't matter, but just ankles over the hips. So that'd be right out here for you, Lindsay. You feel it kick in a little bit in your lower belly then. But you just like gravity. So in a restorative class, we might put a sandbag over your feet to add weight. You just like gravity just keeps sinking down through your leg bones. And then your leg bones right into the back of your pelvis. And it gives the last bit of back of the pelvis widening and broadening. Doesn't matter if there's extra sound in the space that's not normally here at the end of class, because you've got this health in the body and mind now. And what that means in the mind is that you are able to process sensations, but stay centered, settled. To some degree, right? Doesn't mean it's not always a work in progress. We give you just a little extra time today, more than maybe you typically feel in this pose, to let the body experience some fatigue. We want that sense here toward the end of the practice in poses of, in effect, giving up. Lately, I've been sharing with somebody who I get to talk through the challenges of life, my own inquiry, how, you're welcome, of a really incredible capacity to endure. And that is not always an asset. Your body has a lot of that too, especially in your hips, an incredible ability to endure. And we'd like to have it also have an incredible ability to let go. In the pose right here before we leave it, take a deep breath in, open up your mouth and have a sigh. Let there be just the extra measure of softening. Then feet on the floor, pressure with your feet, remove the block, and be thoughtful about bringing your back onto the floor one bone at a time. Feel how it is in your body. You can drop your knees to the left, maybe add in looking to the right and take a breath. And switch sides. Come to the middle, hug your knees into your chest and bring your forehead to your knees so you feel like every bit of the back of your body, skin and all, opens up and can relax to the floor. And then lay your head down, put your feet down, lengthen your legs for Shavasana. Eye towel next to your mat here in the studio. Set your body up for Shavasana. Now, we did a lot of work in your hips, which includes your lower back. If it feels, I don't know, as body lets go, it can feel fragile. You can always take your Shavasana with your knees bent like you do for bridge pose, but your feet set as wide as the mat and your knees dropping into each other. Make your body comfortable really is what we want. Let your body have a deep rest from holding you up, holding on to all that's going on in your life. And let your mind also have a deep rest. Doesn't mean your life goes away, that you suppress it, make it wrong, make it right. You just let it move out at a little more distance, still sensing and seeing it as it rises up and falls away. But you, healed, healthy, you right here still in deep rest. Begin to deepen your breathing. You can roll your head from side to side or wiggle your fingers and your toes, and then hug your knees into your chest. Roll to your side, then bring yourself up into a sitting position. Create it that it's comfortable in your hips to be seated, and that you're able to, in effect, from setting your hips up like this, float up taller out of them. Then sweep your arms overhead and bring your hands into the center of your chest at prayer position, and pause here and just feel how it is for you, how it feels in your body, how it is to be you right now, and create the intention for the rest of your day. Who will you be in the world? For yourself and for others? And then one more time we can chant together. Take a deep breath in. Bring your thumb knuckles to the center of your forehead and inhale and exhale. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you, Jill, for giving us a theme. Thank you, everyone, for working hard and trying it. I hope you've all discovered something that looked like it. And thank you, everyone at home. Have a great rest of your weekend. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.